Welcome to Doc Chat, the podcast that brings you the stories of the unique community of people who work, live and play in the Historic Dockyard Chatham. In this episode, we hear from Chloe Wilson, who is the commercial sales manager at the Dockyard and responsible for all on-site filming. Chloe talks about the filming process and how it integrates with the day-to-day operations at the Dockyard. In part one, Chloe provides a fascinating insight into the life of filming.
I'm lucky enough to have been at the Dockyard now for just over 8 years. I joined in summer of 2017. I came here looking after the sort of commercial venue hire, so looking after our weddings, our conferences. And at that point, I had absolutely no knowledge of filming whatsoever. So that was all very new to me at the time. I was lucky enough to be passed the filming role a few years later when one of my colleagues left. And at that point, I had never worked in the film industry before. It was completely new to me and new to the majority of the colleagues around me as well. So we were really going in quite blind into an industry that we knew nothing about. That said, we kind of took the knowledge that we did have from venue hire for weddings and things, and we just transformed that into film location hire, which is pretty much the same thing, just on a bigger scale. So we've been looking after the film and TV as a department for 5 or 6 years now, and that's given us an incredible experience and some opportunities that I would have never have had in another job, I don't think. And that's what I love about the Dockyard, is that every day is different. You never know who's going to phone you up in the morning and what inquiries you're going to get, what celebrities you might get to meet day to day. Keeps the job really exciting. I've been filming at Chatham now for well over 40 years. We were lucky enough in 1989 to welcome our first production for the Disney Channel, which was Great Expectations. That featured Anthony Hopkins, and it is still available online if anyone's interested in watching it. Although you will see a very grainy version of the Dockyard if you watch that one. In that sort of 40 years, we've welcomed over 200 productions to the Dockyard, and there's a huge range of things that we do. We normally do anywhere between 25 and 40 sort of shows a year, depending on what's being filmed, what's popular, if we're doing period dramas, which is what we seem to be really well known for now. There's lots of different types of productions in the film industry, and we're lucky we kind of touch all of those here at Chatham. One of them being TV commercials. So that's an area of the business that we don't do a huge amount of day to day, but when they do come in, we reap great reward from them because they're usually featured on the TV, which is a really nice thing. So there are companies such as Skoda. We've done some sort of adverts for them a couple of years back where they did a car shoot here in one of our big hangars. Scottish Widows, the insurance company, have used the outside of our buildings before. Commercials are great because whilst they're quite easy to film, they're normally here for a short period of time. We generally find that actually the rewards of that, of being featured on the TV at 8-9 o'clock in the evening in between EastEnders or Emmerdale, is quite a nice thing. Photo shoots is another area of the industry as well. Similar to commercials, they're quite easy to deal with. We generally have them here for a day or two at a time, and you get to work with some really high-end brands on photo shoots, so fashion companies, shoe commercials. We've had people like Zara here, Russell and Bromley, and you're essentially the backdrop promoting their products, so they could be used on social media, on their kind of website pages, in their magazines potentially. So again, that gives a nice kind of PR element to filming. So whilst photo shoots don't generate the biggest income of the industry, they're easy to deal with and they can give us some nice PR if we work with the companies carefully. The main bulk of our business is feature films, which is the stuff we're known for, the stuff people love, and the stuff that generates the most money generally. Also definitely the trickiest to work with. So feature film crews could be anywhere from sort of 100 to 300 crew members before you've got any cast, any extras and any stuff that they bring. Feature films as a general rule have quite nice budgets attached to them, which commercially is great. We can earn some nice revenue, but with that comes chaos as a general rule. So it's lovely to welcome them, but it takes over our site here, and we're not just a film and TV locations area. We have visitors here, we've got residents and tenants here, so all of that has to be taken into account. Alongside feature films, you've got high-end TV, which again is an area that we're known quite well for. That's productions like The Crown or Bridgerton, those kind of TV shows that have budgets that are in excess of kind of £1 million per episode. And you can tell when you've got a high-end TV production on site because they come in with everything you could possibly imagine and more. Food is wonderful on set. You've got cast and crew coming out of your ears. It's generally a very, very busy place to work on that kind of area. But again, it brings with it a really nice revenue stream. And those productions are going out generally on streaming services. So you'll find them on Netflix or Paramount, Apple TV, those kind of things. And those bigger budgets allow for bigger crews and therefore an easier time on site. you've got more people doing more jobs, you've got easier communications with the team. Silly things like health and safety, they'll have a whole health and safety team dedicated to that production. Whereas when we get to things like independent or regional productions, they're working with much smaller budgets, much smaller teams, and then you've got one person doing several jobs. They might not have dedicated people to certain areas, but that doesn't make them any less important to us. So in sort of regional TV, independent production, whilst it's worth less financially, gains us more in terms of they're generally more likely to use their local locations. So Call the Midwife is a prime example of that. They're a smaller budget production, but they've been with us now for 14, 15 years nearly. They're repeat business to us. They know the site, they like it, and we've created a nice partnership working with the production company there. That goes for things like BBC and ITV as well. You're often working with production companies and crews that work on their TV shows for years and years. EastEnders is a great example of that. We had them here a couple of years ago, and the crew that were working on that EastEnders production had been there for like 25 years working with each other. So they knew how their team worked inside out. They also knew that they like to work Monday to Friday. They don't like to do too many evenings, and they prefer avoiding the weekends. So stuff like that really helps. We also do music videos, which is an area of the business that isn't always there. It's very hit and miss as to kind of how often you might find that you get a music video coming in. 2022, 2023 was our bumper year for music videos. We seem to have everyone wanting to film a music video here, which is a great thing. Like, that was wonderful for us. And again, with a music video, you're getting that PR exposure to millions of people at a time, which is really nice. And we have welcomed some really famous faces that year. So bands, the 1975 were a big one. They kind of filmed here and then headlined to Glastonbury the following year. Bewitched were a band from the 90s that made a comeback here. And probably our most important one to date has been Ed Sheeran, filmed with us back in February 2023, I think it was now. That was a moment I certainly won't forget, getting that phone call one morning to go, "Oh, we're looking to bring a music video to you." And we had kind of 2 weeks notice. I'm going, "Oh, okay, yeah, we can see what we can do." And they picked out a particular location, which is called Three Slip, which is a beautiful timber building. It's got lots of windows in it, and yeah, stunning space. But we had an art exhibition in that building at the time, and I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I don't think we can do those dates. We've currently got an art exhibition in there. However, if you can work around it, we can see if we can make it work." And they put the phone down, and they called back about 5 minutes later and said, "Oh, if I told you it was Ed Sheeran coming, would that change things for you?" "Oh, I'll see what I can do. I can't promise anything." And I took that to our kind of senior team immediately and said, "We've got a bit of a problem now. We were going to turn this booking down, but it turns out it's Ed Sheeran, so we probably need to make it work." And of course, at that point, the team kind of erupted into excitement at the thought of having sort of the world's best known singer at the time in our location filming music videos. Lo and behold, we made it happen, and we didn't remove the art installation. It stayed where it was. But there had to be some kind of give and take there. That was a real good example of us going, these are our boundaries. We're not moving our art exhibition. That's really important to us. If you want us, you're going to have to work around it. And the crew came in and they looked at it and went, actually, we will work around that because your location is definitely what we're looking for. So sometimes there is some compromise there on kind of what you can do between you. You can't always say, we're going to move everything for you and make everything happen. But there are times like that where you go, that's a real nice moment. And off the back of that, they produced 4 or 5 music videos that went out online. Ed Sheeran was here all day, and it was something for the team as well. I mean, there's not every day that the team get to kind of sit and have a private Ed Sheeran concert on just Tuesday afternoon. We had to keep it all under wraps. We'd signed lots of NDAs, so we couldn't tell the team what they were working on. It was really stringent, which is difficult for us because you want the team to work those shifts. But yeah, we had this lovely moment where I'd had a few team members in sort of strategic positions, and he popped up out of a lift that they'd taken him in this little back route, and he came out the lift, and then everyone just looked at me and was like, "Is that who I think it is?" And I was like, "Yeah, but you can't say anything. You can't react to that." Picking those kind of key staff members at that point that you knew wouldn't completely faint at the sight of Ed Sheeran. So that was a good one. And alongside that, we also do sort of PR and factual programs as well. So there are lots of productions that will come to us that have absolutely no money to spend at all, but they might be filming a documentary that's about the ropery or something that's historic to do with our ships, and it might be going out on the BBC or ITV or sort of factual TV documentary type program. For those ones, we have to have a slightly different approach because there's no commercial gain to doing it. So the inquiry will come in, I will assess it with my team, and if we don't think there's a commercial element there, but we do think there's a PR element there, send that across to our marketing team, and they will then take that over and kind of have a look and go, actually, there's something we can do there. It's worth our time spent doing it. And generally, factual TV and PR is really simple to deliver. It's a couple of hours on site, but it also can deliver some great returns when you're kind of, on that primetime TV slot in the back of Antiques Road Trip, for example, which we've done before. So those, or Who Do You Think You Are? Those kind of programmes. A really good example of that is when we did Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway a few years ago. So a TV show that we would never associate with the Dockyard as a general rule. It's a game show. It's on at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, or 8 o'clock I think it is. But they were running a competition, and they've run it all over the UK, and they wanted to run it in Kent, a particular episode. And again, we had less than a week's notice for this, but they called us out of the blue, and still we're looking for really interesting locations to host this kind of competition midway through the show. Would you be interested? And we kind of came up with this lovely solution where actually they ended up hosting it here, and it was all about kind of if the viewers could see where this particular location was that they were broadcasting from. And then a lucky winner in Medway managed to win a nice cash prize out of it. So it was great PR for us to be on primetime TV with your name out there is really, really nice. That kind of leads me nicely on to sort of our booking process and lead times and how that works for us. It's not straightforward, a film booking. I'd love to say they kind of come in, have a look, sign a contract and off we go. But it's actually quite complex and can be really lengthy. The lead times generally are very short, so quite often we can be working with a crew for less than sort of 3-4 weeks between them phoning up and inquiring and actually filming. And other times it's the polar opposite. They'll phone us in January and they won't film until the following year. And we've got to have that constant communication. If you've got a larger shoot, like a feature film, a high-end TV, then the lead times are a bit longer because they know what locations they want to look for in 6 months or in a year's time. And they've got quite a tight schedule as to when the actors are available and all that kind of stuff. For other stuff, you are literally, the phone goes. I had a prime example this week. The phone has gone and it was someone going, oh, can you fit us in for the first week of October? And I'm going, hang on, that's 2 weeks away. Luckily, it's a client that we know and a team that we've worked with before. So in that instance, it's going to be fairly simple to make that happen. But it does mean that you're in a situation where you kind of have to prioritise something that's just landed on your desk for immediate attention over the bookings that you've kind of got that are longer term that you're also working on. Inquiries come in all different forms, so they can give you a call, they can give you an email. As a general rule, it's a phone call. The film industry are quite snappy with how they work. They like an answer instantly, so they want you to be at the end of the phone 24 hours a day generally, because they work 24 hours of the day, so they're not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 operation, unfortunately. But that's something that Chatham actually has in its favour, is that we are very flexible. We're generally always accommodating, and we know that's how the industry works. So in order to get a booking, I fully appreciate that someone might phone me at 7 or 8 in the evening and go, oh, are you available next week? And I'm always willing to pick the phone up, because actually they want that business and we want that business. So we need to kind of work both ways. But once they've inquired, we generally get them onto site. So first things first is if they've got any reference pictures, we'll take some pictures and send them across to them. We've got a huge image library of hopefully every inch of this site to a degree, but there is 80 acres of it, so that's quite tough. And we will then send them across any reference images that are suitable for what they're looking for. General rule, the first step is the location manager, who is our kind of event organiser, if you like. Come onto site, we'll do a walk around with them. Depending on the areas that they want, that can be anywhere from half an hour of our time to a whole day of our time. So at this stage, you're investing quite heavily and not knowing what you're going to get out the other end, but you're trusting that this person is interested. So we'll take them around the site. They will take their own reference images. They'll go off and they'll pitch that to the production team. Off the back of that, they will likely then book a second visit, so that if the production team are interested and they think, oh, that might work for us, all the important people will come in. So you'll start seeing directors or art department come through, or cameramen potentially, and they'll bring them in to do kind of the real nitty-gritty stuff as to actually, will this work for us? Is this location right? And generally, if you're getting to the stage of having a kind of a recce with a director, you're pretty firm that you're going to probably get that inquiry, because directors don't just give their time up to anyone. Same with producers as well. If you're getting them onto site, you know you're almost there and the legwork's kind of done, but you can never take your foot off the gas, because they can change their mind in an instant, and scripts change all the time. So whilst you're currently written into a script, you can be written out of that script in the same day. So that is quite difficult in terms of management. We're working a lot of the time on hoping and guessing that these inquiries are going to come off, when you're actually, until they're on site, you're never really sure if they're coming. Once they've been in for those recce's and they've kind of decided that they want us, we would look at available dates, what prices we're going to charge, and sort of start the contracting process, which again is quite complex. Contracting is never straightforward, so you've always got someone at the other side of that contract that wants their version and we've got our version, and somehow you've got to meet in the middle. The contracts are there to protect us and to protect the locations, but at the same time the film crew want their own protections and they have their own version of that contract, and they generally have big legal teams that they work with. If you're talking sort of Marvel or Universal or Warner Brothers, they've got huge legal teams that sit behind them that are very well trained, and as a small charitable organisation we don't have an in-house legal team, so occasionally we'll have to kind of seek expert legal advice if we need it. But as a general rule, we can come to compromises on contracts, and we know the things we will kind of flex on and budge on, and we also know the things that are an absolute hard no and they have to stay in. So once you've got to the contracting stage, even that isn't simple. It's not send the contract and sign, it's back and forth until everyone's happy. And at that stage you're there and you've put a lot of effort in, which is great. But it doesn't stop there. Even after signing a contract, the crew will back and forth with you for weeks and weeks on end, potentially visiting the site, back and forth, and you never really know the full details. I mean, we start writing event and things like that in-house from the day that we get the inquiry, but actually they're changing all the time. We've got a film crew on site with us today. They're due to shoot next week, and they contacted us yesterday to change their shoot timings and days around. It's only a week away, and you'd think they would know what they're doing at that point, but they never really do. And that's purely because actors' availability changes, the script still changes, sometimes when they're on site and they're filming. So you can be midway through a shoot and the director or producer will suddenly add a scene in, or they'll take a scene away, or they'll change around the order that they want to shoot things because the sun is in the wrong place. And as an organisation, you've got to be adaptable to that, which is really tricky when you're managing an 80-acre site with lots of different users and you're trying to communicate the right information to everyone. And then all of a sudden, midway through the day, it all goes out the window and something changes. But then it could start raining or the sun could start shining and you're changing again. So it's never... I don't think there's ever been a shoot where everything's gone exactly to plan as we wanted it to. And that's not a bad thing. It means that the team build up some nice resilience in there. They know how to be adaptable. They learn what things we will say yes to, what things we'll say no to. And that's where a lot of our kind of relationship management and building with the location managers comes from. They also, if you've got a good relationship with the person that you're dealing with on the crew side of things, they already know before they've asked you what your answer is. They just have to come and ask you. We love filming. It's a wonderful thing to do here, and we promote ourselves as a film-friendly location. That means we're open to filming all the time. We understand the industry and its needs and how complex it is, and we've got the facilities available to accommodate both small crews and the really large crews as well. So we can do their car parking, we can look after their unit-based lorries, we can offer them office space if we like, and we're available 24/7. So if they want to shoot in the middle of the night, that's absolutely fine. And we've got vast locations, so you can do Victorian London here, you can do ships here, you can do modern office space here, there's warehouses. I mean, I think we've been Giza docks before in the Mummy, so there's quite a vast range of things you can pull off at Chatham, and the amount of locations that we have and the space that we've got is what makes us really unique.
We will hear more from Chloe later. To find out more about visiting the dockyard, go to the website, which is easily accessible by typing Historic Dockyard Chatham in your browser, or if you want the website address, it is thedockyard.co.uk. That is thedockyard.co.uk. You will be able to buy tickets online, and the great thing is the cost of a ticket gives you access to the dockyard for a year. Please note the dockyard closes to the public on the 16th of November 2025, apart from special, separately ticketed events. Brickwrecks, Sunken Ships in Lego Bricks is making its UK debut at the dockyard and is located in number 1 Smithery. The exhibition is open daily and due to overwhelming visitor demand has been extended to the 16th of November, and more information is available on the Dockyard website. Yuck Yard returns to the Dockyard during half-term. This year, you can experience the curse of the Medway Phantom, which runs from the 18th to the 26th of October. Please note, Yuck Yard is included in the annual ticket price, and more information is available on the website. In part 2, Chloe tells us more of the interactions with the filming industry.
As I mentioned earlier, we are really lucky here to be able to be utilised for lots of different types of productions, whether that's TV, film, commercials, all of those things. And across the last 40 years, we've been in a few productions that some of our listeners may have spotted. One of our most famous is Sherlock Holmes, the kind of part 1 and part 2 films that have got Robert Downey Jr. in. We were used in those. We offer some kind of a pub fight scene in one of those films, which from the outset, if you were to look at it as a general look, you couldn't really tell it was the dockyard. But on closer inspection, it becomes quite clear that it's set within our kind of period street areas. And again, it's a really prevalent scene for that film. If anyone's watched the Sherlock Holmes films, you'll know the fight scene in the pub. Everyone kind of recognises it. And also there's a really great scene where they have this lovely big fight on a boat, essentially, and the kind of boat goes out into the river, and it's a huge scene for the film, and that was used here in one of our slip areas. And again, a lovely moment. We've got some great still images of that one. And a real kind of, at the time, was a big film for us to have made. Les Miserables is exactly the same as that, filmed at sort of similar times, I think back in 2012. That particular film used loads of areas of the dockyard, particularly at our kind of south end of the site where our ropery and our Victorian buildings are. And it's quite obvious when you watch that film what areas are the dockyard. We were used for lots of different scenes, outside and inside. And it's quite clear that it is here, which is what you want when you're doing these film and TV productions. Whilst the financial gain is great, you always want to be spotted on screen and you want to be seen. And that's kind of half the point of doing it as a visitor attraction, is that you would like people to be able to spot you and to then come and visit. There's a whole world of this kind of set jetting film and TV tourism kind of industry that's going on at the moment, where people are travelling all over the world to locations that they've seen in their favourite TV shows, which is a lovely thing. People are travelling because of it, and it's bringing people to the UK because we make such great film and TV here. So Emily in Paris is a good example, though not in the UK. People are flocking to Paris because they've seen how Emily lives her life there. Ted Lasso for the UK is another great one. People are flocking to London and to Richmond to follow this big dream of this American guy in the area, and it's making tourism and tours for those particular locations really good. And that's kind of how we work with Call the Midwife. We've been able to create a film location tour with Call the Midwife based off of the locations they use here at Chatham. The TV show has a massive following, and off the back of that, people then visit us to come and see where the midwives cycle down the streets, which is completely bizarre. The Crown is another big one that you may have spotted us in. We've been used for several seasons of The Crown, on and off. And it's that real kind of period drama that's quite unique to Chatham. We're known for lots of different things. Period dramas is our kind of main bread and butter and the things that we're really good for doing. Marvel is another production company that we work with quite a lot. So we've done sort of Loki for season 2, Secret Invasion, and on initial looking you go, oh, a historic 400-year-old site being in a Marvel production, that kind of doesn't make sense. But actually it does, and their universe spins back and forth in time quite a lot. So to be in productions, again, that have got that high level of budget attached to them and that amount of watchers is really cool. The number of people that stream things like Loki and Secret Invasion on those streaming platforms is a far bigger reach than we could ever do ourselves. And particularly with Loki, they used number 3 slip, which is the same area that Ed Sheeran used, and you can tell so clearly as soon as it pans to that shot in the show where it is. We were in the sort of teaser trailer for that as well. So it was, a really nice moment, that one. We're not just about kind of adult TV shows. We do Horrible Histories is another one that we've been involved in over the years. Great kids TV show. I've watched it loads and it's really, really good. The whole premise of that show is to talk about history. So naturally they'll come to a historic site to shoot that, which is really nice. We've even been in Bond, back in 1999, I think it was, The World Is Not Enough. There's a lovely boat scene that's kind of going through London and across the Thames in this big kind of chase. And then the boat comes out of the Thames and lands in Chatham, which is ridiculous to look at when you see it on the screen. But Chatham, in that instance, was doubling as London, which it quite often does. So it's very, very rare that Chatham, unless we're doing factual TV or drama, it's very rare that Chatham portrays Chatham. It's always somewhere else in the world. Sort of historical Victorian London is prime flip for that, which is good. We've got Mr. Selfridge, that was here for a number of years with us. And that's quite a different aspect, actually. Mr. Selfridge chose us for our space rather than our location. So they did a huge set build of the front shop of Selfridge's that was based here for a number of years. And actually, they didn't choose us for our historic buildings or our warships or any of the nice things that they've got. They purely picked us because we had a car park big enough to build that set in. And Selfridges have got these massive glass windows at the front, and they wanted an area where they could have used any old shop front and taken it over and done that, but they needed an area where the reflections from that shop front window wouldn't be seen. So they used our car park that overlooks a river because there are no shops on the other side of the road. So there was no reflections in the windows, which is crazy to think about that being a reason to choose where you build your set, but it was. And we were the home for that for a number of years. It was a lovely production to have. It was really busy. On the flip side of that car park is now, we still use it as a film location, but it's used more to house the kind of unit base and the car parking of film locations rather than as much filming. So the site is always evolving. We've got, say, 80 acres of historic buildings and car parking and museum spaces, but it's not the same as it was back in 2012 when we filmed Sherlock Holmes and Les Mis. It's adapting all the time. So as the site changes and we get new site users, we have to adapt the way that we kind of promote the site and the sorts of locations that we can use and what we might attract. Things like Mission Impossible that came to us a couple of years back for part 2 of the latest film. Never in a million years would I have expected Chatham to be in a Mission Impossible film like that. Those two things don't tend to go hand in hand. But actually they were wanting to double our streets for another location in Europe, and it worked really well. We were easy to work with, slightly easier than the production were to work with, I would probably say. But with a production of that size and that scale comes big money and big budgets, which is amazing. But it also comes with this expectation that you will bend and flex to suit that production. And you can't always do that. I mean, Tom Cruise flies everywhere by helicopter, as I'm sure some people know, but we don't have anywhere to land a helicopter here at Chatham. Quite obvious if you visit the site and you see our spaces, you can't just put a helicopter down anywhere you like. But that production came with the expectation of, if we film with you, the helicopter has to come. There's no give and take there. He flies in a helicopter and that's that. I kind of walked around the site and we were looking at areas and they dropped it into a conversation about this helicopter, and I thought, no, hang on a minute, I think you've just asked me if you can land a helicopter. And so I kind of revisited it and I was like, can I just double check that's what you mean? And she was like, yeah, he has to travel by helicopter. So I thought, okay, well, have you got anywhere in mind? And she was like, yeah, we'll just do it here on this shingle area. We've got this lovely shingle space in the middle of the site, and I instantly went, I know I'm not a pilot, but I'm pretty sure you shouldn't land a helicopter on some shingle in amongst some historic buildings. And we had this big back and forth, and they were adamant this helicopter had to be here. And eventually we came to a compromise and they landed it just down the road from us on some local land. But that took a lot of work from us. Initially it was a deal breaker. They had to have the helicopter here. They weren't going to film without it. And we kind of really had to stand our ground on that and push back. And as much as we wanted Mission Impossible here, we also had to say, our rules are our rules, and we physically can't land a helicopter here. I can't make space that doesn't exist. And yeah, we came to this lovely compromise, and he flew in down the road and then drove in and out of the site in a car, which was an obvious compromise to have come to. It's really interesting working with a production of that size and scale that have those kind of demands that I personally hadn't come across before. So I've never worked with a star of that nature that will only travel by helicopter. That's completely out of my world. But we got there in the end, and they filmed with us, I think it was October time, and then they came back again in sort of February, March time to do a secondary filming of exactly the same shot, which again, something I hadn't really sort of known was a thing before, but reshooting is absolutely a thing that they do. So there is a budget generally attached to a big production for reshooting stuff that didn't quite go right the first time round. So as a bystander, we watch the filming happening and you think, oh, that's looking great and it looks like it's wonderful, and then they get it back to the cutting room and actually it's not right. They come back and reshoot it again, which is great for us. We earn sort of double the income out of that, which is wonderful. And we know exactly what they're looking for and we know how to work with them, which is great. But on the flip side of that, you end up with doing it all over again and going through all those processes. We had this lovely time a few years back where we filmed Enola Holmes. And again, that is filmed right in Victorian London. Our streets are perfect for it. There was a bit of set dressing, which was lovely. And we were filming kind of early evening and the sun was setting and it was getting quite dark. And they had lots of haze on their set, lots of kind of smoke and things, just to make it look a bit like it was a dirtier kind of London era, really. And it looked really great and all these things are happening, but they'd completely forgotten to tell they were filming in between two buildings, which have got tenants in. Tenants were kind of interested and they were engaged in the process, but they hadn't thought to tell the tenants to close their windows. And all of a sudden this smoke has gone billowing into the windows and set all of the fire alarms off. And our team have instantly gone, oh my goodness, there's a fire in this building potentially. We've evacuated, we've done all the right things. But the film crew haven't taken any notice at this point. So our estates manager, seen all this smoke everywhere, not realising it was film smoke and not actual smoke, because when the alarms are going off, you just don't know. And they're still filming away, not paying any attention to the fact these alarms are going off. So bless her, she's had to run into the middle of the set and scream at them all in mid-shoot. And they're all kind of shouting at her to get out the way, like, what are you doing? And she's like, can you not hear the fire alarms going off? Like, there could be an actual fire, like, we need to clear out. A complete prime example of their world and ours. They were paying no attention to the world outside of their film set. Got this lovely moment, and they've never shown it to us. We would have loved to have seen the clip of her running into the middle of the set and screaming at all of the crew to stop filming. But we never did get to see it, which was quite sad. The thing that's been the most exciting time would be Ed Sheeran. I know I referenced his shoot here with us earlier. But having that moment of, me and the team are getting this private Ed Sheeran concert for the day that people would pay millions of pounds for, and getting to work with a production and a star of that kind of nature. At the time, I'd never worked with anyone that famous before. And actually, it was the polar opposite of landing a helicopter on the site. They turned up in a car. There was a small trailer for him to get ready in. We shot the film all day. He spoke to the team. He communicated with everyone. It was a really lovely environment to work in. And that's the flip side of this air of celebrities have this kind of air about them. And actually they don't. They're mostly very nice to work with. We just don't always get to see them for long periods of time. They're quite often, they'll come in, do their bit, and they'll go again. So it's quite rare to have someone like that just hung around on the site all day, which was nice. And when we were doing Loki a few years back, we had Owen Wilson was in that particular production, and all of a sudden the girls in the catering outlets have phoned and gone, Owen Wilson's just been in here and brought an ice cream. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, it was definitely Owen Wilson just brought an ice cream, and he was just wandering through the site in between shots and went and brought himself an ice cream. And I was like, what world are we living in where he's kind of just happy to go and do that, and actually there's not a person he's demanding to go and buy an ice cream for him. It's this bizarre world, and it's lovely working with film productions, and we're really lucky to have that kind of experience, really. There's not everyone that gets to come into work on a day-to-day basis and get that kind of experience into that industry, and it's a really small industry. So once you know people that work in the film industry, they will move around onto different productions, and you'll see the same faces time and time again, which is really nice. You make friends from those connections, and the location managers do become your best friends. They know that if they phone us here at Chatham, they know they're going to get a film-friendly location. They know we will always pick the phone up. They know we're going to welcome them. They know what to expect when they come here as a location, and we're known for that, which is really nice. They could pick any old cobbled street anywhere in the UK, but it's harder to work with and they don't have those same connections. They're going to choose us over the other cobbled street because they know they can work with us, and they know we have car parking and that we'll look after them. So that stuff really it brings us joy, actually, to know that if they've been with us before, they will come back again at some point. And it could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years even before they are working on another production that fits us. But as a general rule, we'll always see a location manager more than once, which is a lovely thing. And as much as we like working with them, we've got, what a lot of people don't know about this site is that it is, as well as a museum and an attraction, it's a home for people. We've got over 300 residents that live on site here, and over 200 businesses that are based here as well. So this is people's lives that we're interrupting sometimes with film crews. And more often than not, some of our film crews want to film in our residential areas. We've got lovely, beautiful homes up there. And there's instantly, if you know exactly when a film crew calls in, they go, I want to film in this particular area, that's someone's house. Slightly trickier. We've got to interrupt their day-to-day lives. It's interfering with their home or their work, perhaps, if we're asking them to shut their office for the day or close their windows all day. So communication is really key with that. We have to spend a lot of time talking to our residents and our tenants and making sure they know, even if we're not filming in their areas, exactly what's going on, what they can expect. And if we are working in those areas, kind of supporting them in that process as well. Because if it is your home and you're welcoming a film crew in, but actually quite often that resident has no experience of filming, they've never done it before. So we will be there to support them and say, actually, okay, if they want to film inside your house, these are the things you need to consider, these are the processes you need to go through. And even if they film inside the house, they're still going to need a car park. But it's lovely for them. Where else can you go to work or live and go, there's Tom Cruise out the window there, just running up and down the street. So those moments are really quite special, and actually, as much as sometimes it does interfere with their day-to-day lives, the benefits outweigh that a little bit. And as long as we communicate with them and we're kind of open and honest with what's going on and see what can happen, it's for them to be on a working film set is quite a nice feature. It's a complex place. There are always film crews in and out all the time, but actually we're very lucky to be able to accommodate those film crews, and hopefully we'll be filming for another 40 years.
We are now on 10 podcast platforms, including Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. You can either visit any of the 10 podcast platform websites or download their free apps from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. If you have enjoyed our podcast, please hit the subscribe button and you will be sent a notification whenever a new episode is added. To contact us about the podcasts, please email us at podcast@chdt.org.uk. That's podcast@chdt.org.uk. So until the next time, this is John saying goodbye and take care.